Hi everybody, thank you for having me. I'm a nutritional therapist, as you know. I've been doing this for about 24 years. It's my passion. I want to tell you something really important, which is that in traditional models, you have to look outside of yourself to sort out your health. You have to take things to feel better. And I want you to know that your body never ever works against you. Even to the point it produces a cancer cell, it has done everything it can to look after you, to protect you. But it can only do what it can with the tools it's given. So it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves. Now, I am a nutritionist, so I do focus a lot on diet, but I just want to tell you about the 5 areas that need to be included when you're thinking about your health. Because diet is important, but it's only a single jigsaw piece in the whole jigsaw puzzle. So these 5 areas are family history. So that's your predispositions that are handed down to you. So it's really useful, if you can, to find out what illnesses your parents suffer from or suffered from, grandparents, and it's good to go back about 7 generations because we get handed down a load of stuff. We get handed down faulty genes and good genes. Now, the good thing is that in the past, we thought that when we got handed down faulty genes, that was it. Potentially we're going to get that illness and that disease. But what we've discovered, as Ricky was saying before with epigenetics, is that we have the power to change that because it's not about the gene itself, it's about the gene expression. And the genes get turned on and off depending on the environment, depending on how you think, depending on what you're feeding yourself. So we have power to change the future generations, not just ourselves. So I don't want you to worry if you've got family members or grandparents who have had awful diseases. It does not mean you're going to get those diseases. But for me as a nutritionist, when I'm looking at your health, I really want to know what has happened before you. And also to know where you come from as well. That will have a part to play. Because, for example, if you think of, say, the potato famine in Ireland, that created terrible nutritional deficiencies, and that affected many generations after that. So it's really useful to know something about family history. The other thing we need to look at, and there, as I said, there's 5, is obviously diet. That's where I go in, because I know that I can use diet as a tool to create change within the system and allow the system to heal itself to a certain extent. But we do need to look at everything else. We need to look at lifestyle. So are we burning the candle at both ends? Are we getting enough sleep? Are we exercising? It's those basic needs. The third thing, environment. There's not a lot we can do about environment, but the fact of the matter is we are living at the most polluted time ever on the planet. Now, the good thing with Guernsey is that it doesn't feel so bad here because we don't have all the petrol fumes of the cities. We've got the lovely sea air and the iodine coming on that, and that is good. So we're lucky in that respect. But what we do have is this new thing called 4G and Wi-Fi. I'm not dissing it, I love it, it makes my life easier. But I'm telling you now that the EMFs that you get from the 4G and the Wi-Fi have a physically dehydrating effect on your body. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. So it's really important, if you can, to switch off your Wi-Fi and do things like that. And then we've got emotional trauma. So any negative experiences we've had in our lives that haven't been processed can cause internal stress. And internal stress on a physical level means dehydration. And then we've got, well, that's all 5 of them. So I'm going to focus today on giving a few little tips to you about diet and how you can support yourself. And the main thing I'm going to talk about, because I can see the clock ticking away, is hydration. And everybody who knows me probably gets really bored of me going on about hydration. But I am telling you that if we do not access our hydration, we might as well not bother with those expensive supplements. Because we mirror the planet, and the planet is 80% fluid and 20% solid. So we are 70% fluid and 80% in the brain. So we're 70% fluid in the body, 80% in the brain. And we are 20% solid. And we need water to take our nutrients inside the cells and take our rubbish out of the cells. So there's no point in missing that bit. We've got to get that right. But the problem is those 5 areas are going to impact our hydration picture. The predispositions, the miasms that have been handed down to us, have a physically dehydrating effect. The environment has a physically dehydrating effect. I just told you about that. 4G being the biggest thing, but we've obviously got pollution and other things like that. Lifestyle, if you're not getting enough sleep and things like that, will affect and make you dehydrated. Diet, of course, and emotional trauma and negative experience can have a physically dehydrating effect. So can anybody shout out how much water they think that we should be drinking sort of as an average? Yay, 2 litres, well done. It is a little bit approximate, I admit that, because we've got to look at the 5 areas. But 2 litres of water is very important. Can I just say, though, please don't drink more than 1 litre in 1 hour. You know, some people, they get terribly excited and they drink loads and loads of water. You will flood the kidneys if you go crazy and walk out this door and drink more than 1 litre in 1 hour. So you want to spread it out through the day. And the reason you need to drink so much is because of those 5 reasons. We can't get away from it. 20 years ago, I could keep my clients hydrated, but in this very toxic environment, it is very difficult. Now, I'm going to quickly give you some other tips about how to stay hydrated, because I don't know about you, but when I drink a lot of water, it goes in and out really quick. So I would use your diet, the food you eat, to hydrate also. So things like your swollen grains, your soups, your stews, your vegetables, your salads, your fruits, because they'll be digested more slowly. So they'll then be absorbed more slowly. So in fact, they are more hydrating than drinking water itself. But water must be drunk. Now, who believes that tea and coffee hydrate you or dehydrate you? Dehydrate you, brilliant. The reason I'm clapping my hands is because there's so much confusing information out there. And it really is. We've got the advent of the internet and there's so much information, isn't there? But we don't really know how to apply it or use it properly. So I would really encourage you to come and see professionals in these particular disciplines to get clear, or come to talks like this to get clear on this. Now, the reason that coffee and tea are dehydrating is because they are diuretic. They push fluid out of the body. So please don't include tea and coffee in your 2 litres of water. And that also includes herb tea. Now, herb tea is good for you. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that it is a herb which works on the liver and is diuretic. So yes, drink the herb teas, but don't include them as part of your 2 litres. Have them on top of that, okay? What else? The most dehydrating foods you can eat are what I call the drugs. And the drugs are tea, coffee, as I just said, chocolate, alcohol, cigarettes, and Coca-Cola. And as human beings, we will always choose maybe 1, at least 1, maybe 2 or 3. Or are there any angelic people who don't drink or eat any of those things? We're usually going for 1 or 2 of those things. And it's no judgment on my part. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a chocoholic by heart. But we tend to go for 1 or 2 of those things because temporarily they make us feel good, don't they? They give us that boost. The problem is they give us that initial boost and then we get the crash. So if you're going to have them, make sure you're hydrated beforehand so you reduce the challenging effect of those teas and coffees. But we will choose them, interestingly, dependent on the imbalances in our system. So who's a big tea drinker here? Big tea drinkers. So you in traditional Chinese medicine have more of an imbalance in the kidneys. And this is because ancient Eastern traditions and also some of the ancient Western traditions like naturopathy, we look at the system as a whole. We don't split the system into bits. We don't say you've got a skin problem, so we're just going to treat the skin. If we see someone with a skin problem, we'll look at lungs, colon, and kidneys as well, because they're the 4 routes of elimination that are linked together. So what's interesting with traditional Chinese medicine is they link emotions with organs, with colors, with seasons, and with a whole host of other things. And so when you're a tea drinker, I will immediately look at your kidneys. And kidneys are your seat of anxiety. You'll often find a tea drinker tends to be a little bit of a worrier. But you'll find a coffee drinker tends to have more of a liver imbalance, and your liver is your seat of anger, bitterness, and resentment. So you might find somebody who's a coffee drinker might be more prone to those odd outbursts as opposed to the tea drinker. And these are all little clues that we can discover more about the individual and the imbalances that might be occurring within you. So if I've got someone who's a massive coffee drinker, you can be sure that we will be doing some liver work. So we will be doing some detoxifying on liver level. So there's no coincidences as to why we choose chocolate. And by the way, chocolate's a liver imbalance. So yes, I'm sorry, liver, my darling liver. Oh, shit. What have I done? What have I done? Is it okay? So yes, chocolate is very much your liver imbalance. Alcohol, who's having their glass of wine every night? Anyway, who's going to be honest? Did you put your hand up, Dan?
What? The alcohol?
To the alcohol?
No.
Every glass of wine every night? No, I'm joking.
Definitely enjoy the occasional glass though, aren't we all human?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm saying to you is I do not need you, or I might do if you've got a chronic inflammatory condition, I do not need you to have a perfect diet. But what I want you to know is that you can use diet as a tool to create change. You do not need to live in a state of chronic inflammation and disease within your body. You can use your diet as a tool to clear it. And then, of course, if you want your glass of wine, your cup of tea, your piece of chocolate, that's fine. But you've got to know when to have it and when not. If you're waking up with chronic headaches or you're full of fatigue, I would not be shoving the chocolate in and the cakes and the biscuits. I'd be using my diet to clear my system, because you know it's so simple with the body. The body just needs to clear its toxic load, and it simply does that through your liver and out of your colon. And if it can't do that every day, you're going to get a backlog of toxicity, and the liver is going to have to shove it somewhere. And it might shove it on the skin, and it might shove it in the joints. And as you get older, you tend not to get so much problem on your skin, but you tend to dump in your joints more, and your joints ache more. And that is your chronic inflammation. But inflammation can only develop in an acidic environment. We just need to change that, and we can use our diet as a tool to do that. Now, I'm making it sound incredibly simple. I often get clients who also have a lot of emotional stress, and that does need to be accessed. And I do take the time when I'm taking your case history to check in and see if you've had some awful experiences, whether they're still sitting and resonating within your system. And then we will take a moment to acknowledge that pain that you've suffered and allow it to be released. And that makes a big difference to then be able to hear what your body needs and to be able to heal it. Because you know what? I am not going to be able to fix you. I can be guiding you towards the light, but I can't actually fix you. What I want to do is to help you change your resonance so you can hear your inner wisdom, because your body knows how to heal itself. But if you keep stuffing things on top of it, whether it's medications, whether it's chocolate, coffee, alcohol, whatever, then it's going to be very difficult to hear that inner wisdom, that inner light. And that is what I help you to do, is to unlock that. So anybody got any questions? Because I've got a few minutes left while I rabbit on. Does it all sound clear? Yeah? It's all making sense. Okay, so when we're talking about toxins going through liver and colon. We've got to acknowledge that when we become dehydrated, we really upset the balance in the colon. And you know Hippocrates said all disease begins in the colon. So we've got to look after our colon. That's the first place. So just to give you a few tips, I would be starting your day with a good pint of clean, warm water or room temperature water. That will do. Does everybody do that in this room, or is everybody jumping for the tea or coffee? Water, yay, there's a few drinking water. Yeah, anybody jumping for the tea or coffee? There's no criticism here, there's no judgment. Tea or coffee. So the problem is when you've been dehydrated all night because you've been detoxifying, if you then immediately drink your tea or coffee, you are going to be on the back foot for the rest of the day. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to be playing catch up. So I would suggest to you, if you could, to change your habit to your pint of clean water to start with, and then if you want your tea or coffee, if you must, then have it. Do you see what I mean? So what else can I tell you in these last couple of minutes? Is there anything anybody wants to know? Yes, sir?
Why warm water instead of cold?
Because what we want to do is we don't want to waste time heating it in the stomach. We want it straight to bowel, especially when we've done 7 or 8 hours of sleeping. And if we're not particularly good sleepers, we really need to hydrate. I don't know if anybody here is not sleeping well, but I would really recommend that you try to hydrate more fully during the day. Because in the middle of the night, if you're waking up a lot, that's because your blood sugar is dropping, and that is your dehydration. That's the peak of your dehydration. So hydrate through the day to sleep better at night. But it means it doesn't have to be heated up in the stomach, goes straight to bowel, hydrates the bowel, and then can be utilized by the rest of the body. Very important point. Thank you.
Rooibos is a good alternative to drink first thing in the morning.
Sorry?
Rooibos tea.
Rooibos tea, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't hydrate you. It dehydrates you.
Does it?
Yeah. All teas will dehydrate you.
Got no caffeine in it though.
Good that it doesn't have caffeine. That's less stress, but it's still dehydrating. So it's fine to have it, but can you hydrate first? So that because every single food that you eat or drink that you have, it presents a message to your body. And it's either a positive message or a negative message. So you want to always be continually hydrating.
I would say, I know a lot of elderly people in their 90s. I mean, I'm a hairdresser and I visit them. But the thing is, I notice is because they're they're in their own home, they're sitting around a lot. And I'm noticing that their joints are really starting to swell out. And then they can't move because it really, really hurts.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is there anything that can be done to help, or to encourage them?
So hydrating, of course, drinking more water. And I don't know if these people you're talking about are anything like my father. My lovely father was 90 when he died in 2010. I could not get that man to drink water. I tell you what, he lost his thirst. And this is what happens, is when you become chronically dehydrated, you very often lose your thirst. You're like, I'm not thirsty. But I am telling you, if you make yourself drink water consistently for a few weeks, you will get your thirst back, and you will say to yourself, how on earth did I go so long without drinking water? You will get your thirst back. And if there's a confusion between hunger and thirst, which there will be if you're dehydrated, you can affect your weight. You will either become too skinny or too big, because it interferes with the way the liver breaks down fats. And that is a whole other talk. All right? I hope it helps you. Come and see me.